So this iPad Pro 13-inch is 60% more expensive than the iPad Air 13-inch. Now I spent the last few days doing a deep dive on these new iPads, and here's what I figured out. The iPad Pro ain't proing anymore. Now to come to this conclusion, I did a bunch of performance tests including app launch speeds, gaming and frame rates, battery life, charging, productivity test, doing things with the camera as well as video editing. Now when it comes to app launching speeds, I didn't find a big difference between the Air and the Pro. In my testing, I measured the launch speeds for the Lego app, Safari, YouTube, and Genshin Impact. And this iPad Air wasn't that much slower. On average, it was only 5% slower. Unless you're doing this comparison side by side every single day when you're using your iPad, you're not gonna notice that small bump in speed with the iPad Pro. Let's talk about the chip performance. Now lazy reviewers like Monty and I, we're just gonna regurgitate numbers from Geekbench. The single core score for the Air is 2597, the Pro is 3740. For the multi-core, the score is 9951 and 13325. Do those numbers mean anything to you, Monty? For the GPU, the Air score is around 41873 and the Pro score is 53604. So according to Geekbench, this device is faster than this one. From my perspective, it's probably because it has an extra core. This has 8, this has 9. All right, let's talk about the screens. The iPad Pro has this tandem layer Liquid Retina XDR Mini LED screen, which offers up to 1600 nits of peak brightness. In comparison, the iPad Air has a Liquid Retina LED screen, which only has a 60 Hz refresh rate, and I think it's 600 nits of brightness at max. Now, I'm really not sure how to grade this performance difference, but the quality is night and day when you take them outside in bright sunlight. Now, for me, the biggest difference is the refresh rate. The Pro has this feature called ProMotion, which refreshes it at 120 Hz, which means everything on the Pro looks that much smoother. 120 Hz, the Air again has 60. And to show you this difference, here's a side-by-side comparison of my new character in Genshin Impact, both filmed at 240 frames per second, and you could definitely see the difference during the sword strikes. Overall, playing the game with the Pro is just noticeably smoother. Now, last thing I will note about the difference in iPad screens, the blacks on the Pro are blacker, which makes all the other colors pop a lot more on the Pro. When it comes to speakers, the iPad Air has 2, one down here and one up there. With the Pro, there's 4 of them and they're different shaped. They look more like coins than the jelly bean style. In general, the sound coming from the iPad Pro just sounds a lot more immersive. All right, pups, let's talk about battery life. The iPad Pro has a battery capacity that is 10% larger than the iPad Air. But here's the crazy thing. It is 17% thinner and they managed to fit more power into this thing. Like, that's pretty spectacular. Now, in my test, the Pro's battery drain while playing a 4K HDR video was around 6% every 30 minutes, whereas the Air was draining at 10%. For me, that is a big deal. When it came to charging these iPads, I have to redo this section, so bear with me. This is one of the charge tests that I did. Green is iPad Pro, purple is iPad Air, and the iPad Pro gets to 50% faster, like a lot faster. But surprisingly, despite the iPad Pro having a bigger battery capacity, they both finished charging at about the same time. And my 3 charge tests, they were all kind of like this. The middle parts were kind of different, but Pro was fastest to 50, and they both ended at the same time. So I don't think one is better than the other, except I did notice something odd with the iPad Air charging. So when the screen is on, I'm getting speeds close to 35 watts, which is pretty great, but the moment the screen turns off, it drops down to 25 and then slowly gets back up. So if you want the iPad Air to charge the fastest, just leave it alone. Don't keep turning on and off the screen. That doesn't happen with the iPad Pro. All right, let's talk about multitasking through Stage Manager. Now, I know I couldn't find a notable difference between the iPad Air and Pro. Apps showed up and switching between the apps in Stage Manager didn't result in any noticeable differences. As I mentioned before, certain apps will load slower, but kind of once they're open and running on the machine, there was kind of no discernible difference for me. The only difference I could find was the smoothness in transitions when I filmed them at 240 frames per second. They were much smoother on the Pro. All right, let's talk about the cameras, and the difference is quite noticeable. I'm not talking about per se the camera quality, I'm just talking about the efficiency of the camera. As a side note, did anybody notice that the old Pro had 2 cameras, the new Pro only has 1? Yes, this old Pro is bent. I won't tell you what I did to it, but you should go watch. One of the most interesting things I've observed in this comparison was when I was shooting 4K video. The Pro is gonna last on average twice as long. What is that, Monty? You're right. It's gonna be great for all those people who film home videos. And speaking of home videos, the iPad Pro exports out video footage from Final Cut 125% faster. Like, to me, that's offensive. Like, this M2 chip should take offense at how badly it was beaten by this M4 chip. I am going to do an export test between the M4 iPad Pro and my M3 MacBook Pro, because if this thing is faster, I'm going to be so mad. So, Monty, what's the verdict? Between those 7 performance tests, the iPad Pro was on average 54% faster, which is lower than the 60% difference in price. But if you're a creative using the Pro for video, it's going to be like 100% faster. But if you're just using it for like daily computing, the Air is just going to be way better for you because it's going to do everything you need it to do at a fraction of the cost. cost. Sure, the iPad Pro has a better screen, has better speakers, but unless you're staring at them side by side, you're not going to notice the difference. That's all I got for this video. If you want to know what I think are the best accessories for the new iPads, do check out that video. I'm a reviewer, not an influencer. I'm doing these videos because I personally need to know what I can do with these devices so that I can figure out the best accessories for them. Right, puppy? Thanks for watching.